Ladies and gentlemen, good evening from Pompey. The clouds have finally broken. We still have some clouds in the air, in the sky, but the next 3 nights are projected to be crystal clear. Tonight is going to be just a one telescope event. But starting tomorrow night is going to be the long one, Friday. Hi Larry. Looking at CrB, it has not blown up yet. Let me put a label on it. There she is. But I'm looking forward to imaging M45 Subaru, the Seven Sisters, with DWARF tonight. That'll be the first time this year. DWARF does such an extremely nice job with M45. It's the only one of the smart telescopes that has a field of view to fit it all. The moon is starting to rise to the east. And this is a moment when I wish I had another DWARF in hand. DWARF 3 sometime. So to have covered both East Wing and West Wing. I was very pleased with the image of the Eagle Nebula that I got, probably the highlight of my summer. And just for the fun of it, I'm going to show it to you for a quick moment. There you go. Never mind CrB in the middle. Yep, there you go. That's the Eagle Nebula that I got with the Stellina, with the pillars of creation smack in the middle. Okay, back to work. What happened to my... Okay, there we go. The reason I can show it to you is it is my desktop right now. It's the background on the monitors. So I spent last night and today configuring the new computer that I got from Staples, the $119 desktop. It's a Lenovo ThinkCentre Microform. It has 6 USB ports, 2 display ports, an Ethernet port, and Wi-Fi. not to mention Bluetooth and the other whistles. I'm trying to configure it to control the telescope up in Oswego because the old laptop that I have is not going to be suitable for planetary observing, let alone International Space Station. So finally got it to where I think it is ready to travel north. Bottom line, the big frustration is Microsoft's inability to comprehend that I do not want Solitaire and LinkedIn and everything imaginable onto the computer. I want to use it to compute. I ended up, out of frustration, removing the hard drive that came with it and putting a brand new, clean, nothing on it hard drive and installing Windows 10 Pro. I have a copy with digital license, and this way I did not have to put up with McAfee or Windows Defender. Or any of the CPU and memory sucking applications. Yup, that's Boeing for you. When the culture of a corporation switches from being the best airline company in the world or the best aircraft manufacturer in the world to focusing on stock buybacks and profits, you get into problems. Windows 10 allowed me to skip signing in with my Microsoft account and just create a local account on it. And usually the very first thing I do is disable Edge or not use it, install Chrome. Several years ago, I traveled to Seattle, Boeing headquarters, and spent a few days meeting with their leadership and engineers. And I found myself losing my temper a couple of times and screaming and yelling on the attitude that they had towards cyber. They were satisfied that detecting failure in their mind equaled success, and kept explaining to them that detecting failure is not success, mission failure is never success. But that's when I realized that the culture had taken a very, very, very bad turn to the worst. I wish Bill were here so we can talk about the difference between the Boeing 787 and the Boeing 737 in terms of the triple redundancy of the computers in there. 737 triply redundant. If a computer dies, the other two will still carry the mission. Boeing 787 is triply redundant from a Byzantine failure perspective, so if a computer lies, it doesn't have to die. If it lies, the other two can still carry the mission. And that was a radical departure in the industry, really industry leading, extremely forward looking. And then everything fell apart. Yeah, very first thing I did once the computer loaded, hi Zena, long time no see. Hey Zena, we're gonna have 3 clear nights in a row. So if there is anything you want to watch, let me know. It's a viewer's choice tomorrow. Tonight is going to be limited. I will move the dwarf from the west to the east very, very soon actually. The moon is starting to rise and I'd like to put a scope on it. Has Arizona cooled a bit? Zena, here's TCRB if you're wondering. It still has not exploded. This morning when I launched Starry Night, the story that they had was TCRB. Yeah, we plan to sit on it every night to see what it's doing, since it's supposed to be blowing up soon. I will be moving off it momentarily. Only at home so far. But I want to show Larry something of interest here. Larry, I'm going to pull up the big display again to show you what's happening on my new desktop. Don't know if you can read the detail. Stellarium is really a CPU hog. Hi Bill, good evening. Bill and Larry were looking at the new desktop that I'm configuring, and just I want to point to you that I have SharpCap, Starry Night, and Stellarium open. SharpCap is not using any CPU, it's sitting happily waiting to be told what to do. Starry Night is running at around 13-14%, but Stellarium is 45 to 50%, essentially shutting down the CPU using every last cycle. Hey Jacob. Jacob, I don't know if you can see it, the side-by-side comparison of Stellarium and Starry Night in terms of CPU usage. Whenever I launch Stellarium, it will max the CPU to 100%. Okay, we're going to go back to actually doing some work now. Here you go. CrB watch, but not for long. I plan to move to the East Wing shortly. Looking forward tonight to imaging M45 Subaru, the Seven Sisters, for the first time this season. Sadly, winter is up on us. Not in Phoenix. Larry, you must be using a bigger computer than I am. Bill, you have Starry Night. If you put them side by side, or launch both Stellarium and Starry Night, I will greatly appreciate it if you give me the data back when they're both running at the same time, what their CPU usage is, just to rule out an installation discrepancy on my end. Jacob, do you have Starry Night also? I just need one of you gentlemen running Starry Night and Stellarium on the same machine and giving me a relative comparison. Sideburn soldiers. I don't know if the British bookies are taking bets. A scientist in China believes it's gonna go nova on us at midnight on August 9 as the most likely time by his computation. So we will have a special night that night to see if we can capture it going nova. Until then, I plan to check on it every time the sky is clear. Tomorrow we'll probably have a telescope on it all night. Starry Night comes packaged with every Celestron computer purchase. In the past few weeks, as I was frantically trying to understand why capturing the International Space Station has been hit and miss, the only one of the 3 programs they used to find it that consistently captured it has been Starry Night. Stellarium, for whatever reason, misses it. Yeah, the Starry Night download is massive, 1.7 gigabytes is the installer. With Kai's work on Dr. Young's work on the Seestar Alp, I had transitioned from Starry Night Thanks, Bill. Are you checking on cumulative usage? as well as spot usage or just waiting for them to stabilize. I still have a couple of large clouds to the east moving away, so I'm going to stay with the DCRB for another few minutes and then physically move the dwarf from the west wing to the east wing, or the west perch to the east perch. Bill, this conversation came about from the Staples or the Lenovo Think Center that I got from Staples. Paid $119 for it, free shipping, that I want to dedicate for Oswego to drive the 16-inch telescope. I do not want it or need it to do any processing, just the fact that it has 6 USB ports, 2 display ports, an Ethernet and Wi-Fi. That is the appeal. And as I was installing everything on it, it just kept spiking to 100% CPU, and I discovered the problem was stellarium. So I may have to use Starry Night on it instead. When you start counting for a rig like Oswego, there is the mount control, that's 1, the focuser is 2, the dome is 3, and then 2 cameras, that gets us to 5. The 2 cameras, one for the main imaging camera and then the auto-guiding camera. So we're already at 5 and have not connected a keyboard or a mouse, which I do not plan to connect. It will be remote controlled, and then the requirement to have Ethernet connectivity. There is no Wi-Fi in the observatory, but they did provide me with a hardwired high-speed internet for the solar eclipse, which is what I use. Well, I have had mixed results with hubs. I have a very good USB-C hub connected to my Vostro high-speed laptop, and for whatever reason, when I'm capturing at high speed the ASI 585 and going 200 frames per second, that thing goes berserk on me and shuts down the other devices. That's why I'm looking for to avoid loose parts. In my own dome, the Optiplex i7 with the 6 USB ports has done wonders, never failed on me. And anytime I try to put a hub, I end up having problems. May well be. In fairness, I have tried no fewer than 6 different hubs over the years. And at one point or another, every one of them has given me a problem. My Dell dock with my Dell computer refuses to recognize my external keyboard. Could not for the life of me convince it. When I plug everything, the keyboard is the one it refuses to recognize. Good night, Zena. And we welcome Sideburn Soldiers back. Hey, I don't blame you. I will put mine on mute as well. We have another few minutes, probably 5-10 minutes at most, of TCRB, and then we'll move dwarf to the east. Thank you for referring to us, the folks from North Carolina. We had and Colorado. They joined us, the citizen soldier, and what's her name from Colorado, and they blamed you for telling them about the channel, so thank you. Yeah, Secret of Truth. Yes. Thank you. The next 2 weeks are going to be exciting vis-a-vis the future home of the Pompey Observatory. Monday, the seller and I will be meeting with the attorney to get the paperwork moving, and the following week the surveyor will stake the corner of the property and draw up the map that we will submit to the town for subdivision approval. We have already discussed informally with them the plan, and they see no problem. So we're good on that front. I know that T-Mobile has 5G coverage of the property, which is a big consideration for me. Now that Verizon, I don't know if you guys have seen, Verizon is offering unlimited data in their home internet 5G plan. I like unlimited data, so I'm gonna borrow a friend's hotspot and test it to see if it'll give me coverage. All right, I have the moon in sight, so I'm going to physically move dwarf, so we're going to lose connectivity for a few seconds, and we'll be up in no time. Stand by. Audio is going to go on mute because you don't want to be listening to the dogs barking right now. So that's all it took. No telescope is as efficient as DWARF in transitioning from one side of the building to the other, and it's tracking again. Let's make sure we have aha. The moon is just a bit too warm for my liking. Well, it is warm, okay. It has not been focusing right lately. And let me make sure one more time that we have the heater on. I know that Xena does not have the heater on. It's gonna get very humid very soon here. Larry, you're talking about ISS passes. Nothing for me tonight. Okay, here's the numbers. We're talking about the fans on the CPU or the fan on the box itself. On the case. Okay. The Lenovo Think Center that I got, they brag about the fact that it is fanless. Okay, Andromeda is high enough. We'll come back to the moon. I need to perform a recalibration quickly. Okay, that's a beauty. Atlas. M31, go. It's not quite centered, but I don't know if it lets me move it a bit to the center. Come on. Build those numbers to 15. Okay, it's not tracking. All right, touche. That's more like it. Okay. Let's cut the infrared, increase the shutter to 10. And let's capture. Bill, back to your numbers, please. You said 15% CPU, 44% memory. Which program? Is that Stellarium? Are you able, Bill, to tell me what percent CPU each of them is using? I'm trying to compare Stellarium to Starry Night usage.
$10 can help fund powerful.
Okay, thanks, Bill. I decided to pick 3 targets for tonight that will not be badly impacted by the moon. M31, M33 and M45. Especially looking forward to M45. DWARF does such a nice job with it. I need to reduce just a bit the... come on. The effect of the moon here. Okay, that should do. So a couple of things happened this week. The university at Oswego extended to me a 3-year appointment as a visiting scholar. That will give me the ability to supervise student projects to work on the big telescope. So I'll get some free labor. It also gives me less constrained access to the facilities and to the place, including potentially slightly better internet access on computers that we can configure. And the pay is good, nothing. So I don't have to worry about filing taxes on it. Yeah, I already submitted 3 projects for next fall's programming class, computer science class, the juniors. The one I'm most interested in is applying AI to identifying the right setup given a target. I want them to do the entire Messier catalog initially. So when you specify a target like M31, their AI program would automatically configure, first of all, identify the ideal aperture and focal length for the target, and then identify the ideal capture time, exposure, filters, all the things that go with it to get a good capture. The second project is going to involve having them do some Python programming to automate what I do manually right now with the scope, so we can get it done quickly. And the third one is going to be synchronizing multiple telescopes on the same target and integrating the data together. Yeah, we will have fun. And the other interesting thing is in 2 weeks, I'm expected to host the dean of the college and the president for an observing night at the observatory, so I can show them what the technology can do. Yeah, the other project that I want them to work on, and that's probably the most appealing to me right now, is satellite trail deletion from captured frames. And I have some ideas on how to do it, especially when you have 3 frames in a row and the middle frame has a satellite trail, whether you can average pixels from adjacent frames as well as pixels from the same frame from adjacent pixels, and in the process erase the satellite trail completely. Their first challenge is detecting that there was a satellite trail. The second challenge is deleting it. I doubt that they'll be able to develop neural networks to do that. We'll probably just stress their algebra ability to average 3 pixels. But if I had a bunch of graduate students in mathematics or electrical engineering or any scientific discipline, then getting them to program a neural net to clean up the images, the way StarNet deletes stars and leaves everything else, that would be a fun project. Since when did you take up smoking, Wilbur? It's not good for you, it'll kill you. Bill, you just put a bug in my head here. I'm wondering if they use the satellite database to augment the work on the images so it's not being done in a vacuum, but rather use the satellite database as to where things are to identify the satellite trails deterministically and then do the deletion. Well, you are putting more ideas in my head here. The AI algorithm to identify the equipment and the setup for a given target, we augment that with the orbital mechanics so we can add also the ideal time to image it based on the 8,000 plus satellites orbiting. Hello, Mike. Mike, Bill is conducting an experiment on my behalf. You and I had discussed earlier today the big discrepancy that I observed between CPU time on Stellarium versus Starry Night. So Bill is running the two programs independently on his machine to get us the data. Now that SharpCap has a go-to capability, in theory, I do not need either of them to run the 16-inch telescope. I just need SharpCap. I'll have to plan my targets offline and know what I want to do, and just do the pull-up with the SharpCap. But when it comes to the International Space Station, both stellarium and starry night give me the ability to forward into the future and pre-position the telescope for a rendezvous based on the right ascension and declination coordinates, which I would not be able to do, not easily, with a sharp cap go-to. Plus, stellarium allows me to control Seestar, thanks to Dr. Kai. Bill, how do the stellarium numbers compare with the earlier numbers that you gave me with both running at the same time? If the two of them used up 15% CPU, what did stellarium use? Your earlier numbers suggested that memory was not being stressed, so there was minimal paging in and out of disk. Interesting. Okay, 14%, the two of them 15. Okay, I'm eager to see what the Starry Night numbers look like. How much memory did Stellarium use? Memory is not an issue, but I wonder how much of that CPU is being used to switch memory in and out. Okay. It's interesting that we have been on Andromeda for half an hour and have not seen a single satellite trail. Hello, Daniel Williams. Daniel, what part of the world are you joining us from? This is Dwarf 2. Dwarf 3 is going to have some things better than Seestar, but it will fail or fall behind on one front, and that is the glass aperture. Seestar 50mm, Dwarf 35mm, that'll always make a difference. Dwarf is going to have slightly better dual band filters than the ones that Seestar use, and Dwarf will certainly have the wide angle stacking that Seestar does not. Remember, Dwarf has 2 cameras, 2 sensors, 2 lenses. Dwarf is essentially 2 telescopes inside that casing. And the one thing that is not readily quantifiable is the software that's coming, the algorithms that they are using. England, good old England. So it's good morning to you. almost 6 a.m. So back to your question, they stopped making the Dwarf 2. On the Dwarf Lab website, Dwarf 2 has been officially discontinued, but there are lots of them lying around. At different times I find myself reaching for one or the other, the Dwarf or the Seestar. Tonight's plans, I could not use the Seestar for what I'm doing with the Dwarf. For one thing, the field of view, Seestar would not cover all of Andromeda or the Pleiades, the Seven Sisters, M45, which I plan to do later. But Dwarf can do them both. Daniel, if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, please subscribe. We try to go live every time the sky is clear, whether it's day or night, with an assortment of telescopes ranging from a 1-inch aperture to a 16-inch aperture, which doesn't belong to me. Bill, are you going to be around for the lunar eclipse? No, Dwarf 2 does not do nebulas good at all. Dwarf 3 is expected to do nebulas or nebulae, but I'm waiting to get my hands on one so I can test it. Thank you. At the beginning of the year, I gave myself 2 targets for the fun of it. Yes. And we're well on our way. Thank you. Yeah, right now the folks at Oswego are planning to host a public viewing event, and one of the retired astronomy professors is coming up from Pittsburgh to man the 16-inch telescope. So the plan right now is to use the big Meade, the Meade 16, for visual observing. And I will have both Seestar and Dwarf, and with a bit of luck it'll be Dwarf 3, not Dwarf 2. And we will have an 8-inch for visual as well. This is live stacking, Daniel, yes. Not only live stacking, but stretching as well. Both Dwarf and Seestar do auto-stretching with the images. Dwarf gives me the ability to to do some of the adjusting myself, which Seestar does not. DWARF has a lot more manual controls than DWARF does. Sorry, than Seestar. Hello Douglas, how is Ottawa? You guys should have a clear night as well. By the way, we still have some clouds in the area, which is reflected in the 10 packet difference between captured and stacked. Okay. Daniel, the DWARF is a lot more transparent, has a lot more transparency in how it operates, how it functions. Seestar has a little bit more mystery to it. You do not see the sausage making. Today, the big limitation of DWARF is it does not do nebula, which Seestar does. But DWARF 3 is supposed to have the O3 H-alpha filters, and that allow it to do nebula. And the specs that they published on the DWARF Lab website suggests that that internal filter is going to be higher quality than the one that Seestar uses. And as you're checking the boxes and comparing the two telescopes, I have to keep reminding you that glass has its privileges. Right now, Seestar captures 4 times as much light as DWARF does. A 2-inch aperture versus a 1-inch aperture. That's 4 times the area, the surface. With DWARF 3, you still have a 2-to-1 advantage of Seestar to DWARF. That translates in the images of sunspots. The solar images with the Seestar are a lot more sharper than what I get with DWARF. And the lunar imaging with Seestar, the features of the moon are a lot sharper on Seestar than they are on DWARF. If Seestar indeed comes out with an 85mm or 100mm telescope, that will challenge head-on the smart telescope that Celestron put out. The $6,000, $4,000, whatever, multi-$1,000 scope. Origin is $4,000. I'm going to give DWARF a full 1 hour on M31. So we are at 274 stacked. I want to get to 360 and then hop over onto M33. The Pleiades has just risen. But in between M31 and M33, I want to hop back on the moon briefly and then come back. Bill, you mentioned the radio telescope. Right now we're expecting it in the fall. and I can't wait to have Jupiter side by side, 16-inch scope, the radio telescope, and Seestar. Apparently Jupiter is an ideal candidate for radio telescope. It has a lot of things radiating from it, considering that it's a big ball of gas. Jacob, are you after the shirt and the hat here? The latest from Sue is I should not expect Dwarf 3 before the end of August. Yeah, that was a surprise. It was a pleasant surprise. You may remember that one weekend when there were three things she was anxious to have tested, to get tested. And we did the testing, and then out of the blue sent me the cap and the shirt to thank me for helping with that testing, which was nice. But my understanding is they do not have everything worked out yet with the dual band filters and the software to ship beta versions to test that piece of it. Initially, yeah, it is a 4XL. Bill, initially we were talking about end of July. Yeah, she sent me a message and asked what specific testing did I plan to do, and I outlined a test plan, and her reply was very specific that she will not have anything for me to do these tests until the end of August. And I am not sure if it's a hardware issue or a software issue, but that explains why we have not seen images taken by Dwarf 3 other than the odd Milky Way that John took. But I have not seen any images taken with a dual band filter yet, any nebula with dwarf 3. I told her my plan is to do the Eagle Nebula M16, M13, Hercules cluster, M31, M33, and M45, and then top these with the North America Nebula, NGC 7000, and the two veils. Haven't seen any leaks. The greater lineup, Bill, is going to be the telescope lineup, because I plan to have Dwarf 2, Dwarf 3, Seestar, and Stellina side by side on each of those targets. Stellina and Seestar have effectively the same field of view, except that Stellina has the ability to rotate its sensor, so we can make them both vertical in that sense, or portrait as opposed to landscape. And Dwarf 2 and Dwarf 3 have a much wider field of view. The very first time when I did a comparison between Seestar and Dwarf 2 on Triangulum on M33, I received hate mail from both sides, saying it's an unfair comparison, that's not a good target to be using. Okay. I also told Sue I want to put Dwarf 2 and Dwarf 3 side by side to look at the moon and see the detail that we get. Daniel, I believe that was Dwarf 2. If you have seen any images of a nebula taken with Dwarf 3, please send me the link. I'd love to see them. Yeah, we tested the AI algorithm. I don't know if AI is enabled on this capture or not. I'll have to double check. The packet loss rate here has increased dramatically. We are 50 some packets down. It's probably because I cannot see any stars outside. They lied on us again. The moon has disappeared, so that's how cloudy it turned all of a sudden. The excitement and the tension is building. And here are the numbers. Okay, these numbers, Bill, are very consistent with what I got. My memory numbers are essentially the same as the ones that you got. The CPU numbers, mine are 3 times bigger because it's a slower machine. My stellarium was in the 50% range, with Starry Night in the 10 to 12% range. So this is consistent. Thanks for doing that. This is telling me that for that particular desktop that I'm putting in Oswego, I'm going to be better off using Starry Night. Yeah, 14% to 4% is a 3 to 1, just over 3 to 1 ratio. Oh, okay. You should see the heat sink on that Lenovo fanless desktop. When I picked up the computer, said, "This is heavy, what's in it?" Turned out to be a massive block of metal. Bill, don't know if you heard me mention that SharpCap has a go-to functionality now, which works very, very well. They do not have a planetarium per se, but they have an extensive database of pretty much everything. So you can search or you can enter RA deck. Yeah, we're not stacking at all here. We're stuck at 290. The $14 a year that I pay for SharpCap has proven to be extremely well spent money. The developer is very, very responsive to emails or questions. But what he has done, I've been using SharpCap for many years now, and I've seen it evolve. His latest contribution is a plate solving algorithm that is an order of magnitude faster than astrometry or Sigwin, if you want to call it that, or ASTAP. It's lightning fast. SharpCap, StarryCap, SharpCap. I used to use it for camera control and for capture, and I still use it for that. But he added recently polar alignment, he added auto guiding, he added plate solving, he added the autofocus routine, which I really like. So from SharpCap I can control the mount, control the focuser, do the stacking, because he added stacking as well, do the auto guiding, very good go-to. The plate solve is matched with an automatic go-to to correct the position. And that feature has allowed me to forgo aligning the 16-inch telescope. I don't align it anymore. I just tell it to go to a target, plate solve and correct, and it does that in a matter of seconds. Okay, I have good news and I have bad news. The bad news is Astrospheric has generated a new forecast which says the next 3 hours are going to be cloudy. The good news is it's also saying the next 3 days are going to be clear. Thanks, Bill. Larry, Nina does, but I have not developed the same I've not spent as much time on Nina as I have on SharpCap. For whatever reason, I find myself hopping off Nina to SharpCap anytime the the going gets rough. I started with them, both of them side by side for Oswego, and found myself repeatedly getting things done with sharp cap that I could not readily get done with Nina. Nina does have dome control that sharp cap does not. But for the dome control, I end up writing my own code. Thank goodness for Python. Okay, gentlemen, looks like we will be getting some sleep after all tonight. We have gone 20 minutes without stacking a single frame, and it's not looking any better. Yes, it does, Bill. I asked the Starry Night folks point blank at NEEF, and they say you can install it on as many computers as you want as long as it is the same user. When you registered it, you entered your email address, your name, and you have a whatever 16-digit number. You can enter these on as many machines as you want, and they will honor it. Larry, we can at some point have a lengthy comparison, but Nina is the only program that I know that will send the Meet 16 home, and it's the only program that I know that can tell the difference between the idiosyncrasies of park and home. Meet 16, park, and home are different places, and Nina is the only one who can tell them apart. The big, however, when I try to slew things using the arrows on Nina, that's when I lost the big scope multiple times because it will just run away. I click the move to the left or move up, just a simple click, and that thing will just swing the 250 pounds around and not stop. That was the big turn off for me eventually. Okay, good night, folks. We're definitely on for tomorrow. So join me if you have nothing better to do. And for now, so long.